Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day?
Hello everyone, my name's Dean. Let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track the price of Bitcoin as a proxy for the cryptocurrency markets at large. Today is September 22nd, 2025. And what the hell was that? Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. Bitcoin did a new moon dump on us before going up. What gives? We're going to look at Bitcoin. We're going to look at altcoins. We're going to try and make sense of yesterday's move down. All right? How big was it? How important was it? Did we break market structure? What about the altcoins? All that and more. If that sounds interesting to you, then watch until the very end. Hope everyone's having a great day. Let's get into it with Bitcoin on the 4-hourly time frame. So, the way I look at it, okay, there's a few ways to look at it. Some people like to look at it in terms of, okay, how much was that of a move? It was a 3% move. I don't love doing that because it's all relative. 3% is just 3%, sure, but how significant is it vis-a-vis the rest of the price action that you can contextualize that 3% drop in, right? Did you break market structure? That's what I'm concerned with as an analyst. Not necessarily that it was a 3% move, because that seems that seems arbitrary, okay? 3% move, 3% move. Sure. Some altcoins move down 10 to 15%. Others move down 2 to 3%. Again, did you break market structure? This is what we're really going to look at. That's the first point. Secondly, you are back at support. Extremely important. All right, look at this. We're looking at Bitcoin on the 4-hourly time frame, but that allows us to still be able to see this entire 74-day range. Okay, Bitcoin's been raging for 74 days. For people who are like, oh, Bitcoin's going to the moon, understand that it's been ranging for 74 days. Also, in context of an even larger 310 day range. There's nothing bullish about going sideways for that extended period of time. People are increasingly saying what is obvious on the chart, what's been obvious on the chart. This is not a bull market. If you still don't understand that, you'll get it soon enough. This is not a bull market. It's all corrective price action. This is why it feels the way it feels. This is why you want to throw up every time something happens, because you've been waiting for a pump and you never get it. You just get sideways stuff, a little bit of up, a little bit of down. It's exhausting. It's exasperating. And it's exactly the emotional component of corrective price action. You know, when we look at the fear and greed chart, or when we look at the Wall Street cheat sheet, what's it called? The Wall Street market cheat sheet. It's all, there are emotions associated with different phases of market structure. And the emotions associated with corrective price action are frustration, anger, annoyance, fear, like all these negative emotions. And that is what you're feeling. If you're honest with yourself, you should be feeling that. That's exactly what you should be feeling, because that's exactly where we're at in Bitcoin particularly. And actually, it's been where we've been at for most altcoins. Okay? But the difference between Bitcoin and altcoins, generally speaking, not all altcoins, is Bitcoin's at a top, most altcoins are at a bottom, and they've been going sideways. They've been doing this sideways dance on macro bottoms, okay? We're going to look at altcoins in a second. Let's finish with Bitcoin first. So, again, 74 days, whoops, 74 days within the context of a larger 300 and some odd day correction. But essentially, it's just a bunch of sideways stuff. And if you can't see it yet, it's quite clear. All of this is gearing up to do that. It's gearing up to go down. Okay? And that is why, whether it's here at 112 or where we were at 115, 16, or even at all-time high at 125, Bitcoin is in a danger zone. Bitcoin is bearish. If you're in Bitcoin, you shouldn't expect much. All right. So now let's go back to the 4-hourly time frame. Let's focus on what just happened. Okay, what just happened to me is that we came back to support. This again is 74-day support. We were at resistance. Okay, again, basic, nothing fancy, straightforward technical analysis. This is a range. The range midline is resistance when you're below it, support when you're above it. We were below the range. That was resistance. We rejected from resistance. Nothing, that's expected. Eventually you do break it, but we rejected from it, which is actually more likely than not. All right? And now we're back at support of this 74-day range. What do you do at support? You hold support and you eventually bounce off of it. Okay? So for those that are saying, oh, Bitcoin's going to go down, not quite yet. Statistically speaking, it is unlikely that Bitcoin break down from here because we're at support. And you do not lose support from support. Granted, you can say the move started at the midline. Yes, I agree with you. But that larger move has to start from the top of the range. And you could say, yo, that's the top of the range. Went down, midline, and then we lose it. Yes and no. I would say you're close, but you do need at least 3 tests of the top. 3 tries, typically, of trying to make a higher high. This is why we get our, classical head and shoulders bearish reversal patterns. That's why you get your inverse head and shoulders bullish reversal patterns. You typically have 3 goes at support, at resistance, before losing it, before leaving it. So I would say you need another one right here. Come down, you lose it, you retest that midline, and then you're done. Okay? So I believe this move down is only to go back up, and actually to go up a bit higher than we were going to go from here, right? And it makes sense because you go lower, you get more liquidity. The other read is, remember, this was an inverse head and shoulders bullish reversal pattern. It broke out, it retested, now it breaks out in due course. Okay, so in a lot of ways, we should have read this, but I was reading, as you know, because you guys watch every episode, I was reading a small move up here and kind of a sort of failure. So I wasn't really looking at this to be a complete, clean, bullish reversal pattern that's retested so that it can break out. Okay, I was reading this as, okay, I'm just going to keep going up and then lose steam, put my 3 tests of the top in right here, and that's not what we got. Okay, and actually this is more high probability read, so I probably should have read this in hindsight. I'm sort of criticizing myself. I'm criticizing myself and saying, hey, you should do better, and that's probably correct. In any case, we're back at support and we're retesting previous support or previous resistances, new support. Expect for us to break out from this level, the height of this inverse head and shoulders. Let's measure that really quickly. just using a line tool, the head from the neckline, and the neckline, to be clear, is this right here, which is currently being retested as support. So, for people thinking that we're going to go lower, it's unlikely. We're at 74-day support. Also, we're at the support line level of this inverse head and shoulders. It's likely that we hold this support. And then if you superimpose this, right, and we try to measure this breakout, you know what? There's a chance that we don't even see. Okay. There's a chance that the next move is just a modest move right back to resistance. But like I said earlier, typically these moves test liquidity at the tops 3 times. So I would not be surprised if we overshot this target of 118 and came to these regions right here, to the all-time high regions. I still think you get into that all-time high region for Bitcoin, okay? But again, any way you slice it, Bitcoin is in dangerous territory. It is not bullish. It is in corrective price action at the 74-day top of the 310-day range. There's like you've got to be brain dead to think Bitcoin's bullish right here. Okay? It's not a question of if it's bearish, it's how bearish, exactly where, you're splitting hairs. Like anywhere here is selling the top. Okay? If you want to wait until here, I don't know, that's just foolish. It's foolish. These are dangerous levels. Look at how price reacts when it rejects. It doesn't want to be here. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Bitcoin does not want to be here. It is at a distribution level, meaning any chance it gets to distribute, to leave, to drop, it will do so with haste. But I do think some way, shape, or form, you're getting 3 tops. You may get a maximum of 118. It may come up here. So I would tentatively watch for a move back up here and no higher. But don't be surprised if we get up here. So that's Bitcoin. This is what I think happened last night. In the dead of night, right? What a funny way. You're dropping on day 0 of a new moon, which is statistically improbable. Typically, the new moon drops occur on day 1 or day 2. Then you drop in the middle of the night. Like God knows what market is open, what traditional market is open, but it's like a 2 a.m. I don't know. When was this? This initiated at exactly 12 a.m. New York time, right? That's funny. That is funny. It went from 12 to 12, so 12 hours straight to drop 3%, which, yes, that is bearish in the context of things, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, now let's look at altcoins. Altcoins. Again, to look at the altcoins, I think the best measure of altcoins right now is the others, not total 1, not total 2, not total 3, but the others, right? That's all the altcoins minus the top 10 in market cap. We're still extremely bullish. Nothing's changed there, okay? Bitcoin, just to recap, is targeting between 118 and 120 some odd. And altcoins are still super bullish because if you zoom out, you see that altcoins are still printing and structurally maintaining this impressive bullish reversal pattern. Okay, so what we're in right now is the right shoulder of a bullish reversal pattern, and what you see here is a flat correction. It's a rising wedge, or would you call that a rising wedge or ascending triangle? I don't know, but it's a bullish pattern at resistance. You're consolidating at resistance. This, remember, is a 500, Nicolas, s'il te plaît. This is a 500-day resistance that you're consolidating at bullishly, and you put in 3 waves, and then the capitulative drop, meaning this should very well be the final move of whatever this is, WXYXZ, more likely than not, a complex flat correction. So what you're looking at is a move up and out of here in altcoins. Altcoins are still extremely bullish. Do not be confused by what just happened. Still extremely bullish according to this chart. And the next aggregate target, right? The larger target hasn't changed, right? You're at the bottom of a 500-day channel. You're consolidating in this way. Obviously, the top of the channel is the first target, and you can even break it down. So you would probably do something like this. Okay, so that's the first micro target, the top of this price action right here. And you're essentially in altcoins on the verge of doing a 90% aggregate move, right? And that's like, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And it's going to happen. It's right there in front of you. That market structure is beautifully held and it's beautifully maintained, right? You see this right here? This is what we call holding market structure. This is what we call still being bullish. When I say altcoins are extremely bullish, I'm saying that with reference to what I'm seeing. It's not an emotional statement. It is not a, I'm looking at market structure, I'm looking at the charts, and your higher lows, higher highs, right? In the aggregate, that's going to lead to a breakout, right? A supply squeeze where you're going to get that impulsive price action that we've been waiting thousands of days for, quite literally. Last but not least, others dominance, right? What does this tell us? This is the others chart. So basically all the altcoins minus the top 10 in market cap. Okay. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about when I say top 10 in market cap, open up the website coinmarketcap.com and look at the top 10. You'll see Ethereum, you'll see Litecoin, you'll see whatever, all these altcoins. Look at the top 10 that are not Bitcoin, right? And count 10 and then take those out of the calculation. That's what you're getting normalized on a chart. All those altcoins, those tens of thousands of altcoins, all globbed up into one chart. That's others. Now, this chart particularly that we're ending the video with is others dominance. It tells us how much more bullish these altcoins are than Bitcoin. When it's moving up, they're more bullish. When it's moving down, they're less bullish, and Bitcoin is beating them. And what you can see ever since June, these altcoins are stronger than Bitcoin. They're up against Bitcoin. And what have we seen thus far? The most recent move down was a capitulative impulsive move. And these, we know, are the final move in any corrective sequence. So here, what makes sense to me is I see this 3 waves. I see this is a complex wave. It's a B wave or X wave. Doesn't matter what you want to call it, but it's a complex wave. And I see a pivot and I see a quick move down. That to me means I just printed a WXY running flat correction. Again, why is this bullish? This is others dominance. This basically tells me that altcoins are going to demolish Bitcoin, and despite this move, nothing changed in that narrative in the immediate short term, because here I'm printing a running flat correction, the most bullish corrective flat pattern in existence. And I just printed the capitulative impulsive move, pretty much the capo, the conclusion of any corrective pattern. Okay, so I know what comes next is either another corrective pattern or a pure impulsive move to the upside, right? Because this went down. Now I know it goes up. Does that make sense? It goes up, down, up. I know the impulsive move, if we follow this up with an impulsive move, that impulsive move is going to go up. Last thing I'm going to say. You can see this in Bitcoin and you can see this in any altcoin. By the way, let me say this. Do you see this move? Hold up, let me fix this. Let's fix this. Okay. This move right here, interestingly enough, and I don't think there are any accidents per se. I think markets are they are fractal, and you see markets tend to print, in my experience, small versions of what they likely are going to do or have done in the recent past, larger versions of. Again, markets typically print small versions of price action that they have recently done on a larger version, or will likely do on a larger scale in the immediate short term. Look at this. This is an inverse head and shoulders bullish reversal pattern. And you broke out of it and you hung out for a while, and then you dumped, retesting the top neckline of the bullish reversal pattern, previous resistance, as new support. For those of you who know where I'm going with this, I'm just going to go with it really quickly and then finish what I wanted to say. Let's go to our master chart of Bitcoin and zoom out a bit. And would you look at this? Here you can see an inverse head and shoulders, broke out, right? Hung out. It's clearly at resistance here, and eventually it dumps down, making the previous resistance into new support at our target between 55 and 60K. Don't be surprised if that's exactly what we get. There's so many things that for years have been telling us this is coming. For people who still don't get it, don't be surprised when you see Bitcoin flying down to between 55 and 60K. Now, on that topic, look at how it's recovered. That is what I actually wanted to talk about to end the video. Okay, let's go back onto the intraday time frames. Let's go on the hourly time frame. Okay, so I'm claiming that this is support, this area right here, and you're supported by this 74-day channel. You're also supported by this inverse head and shoulders pattern. So Bitcoin should find support here, but you came down. It took you 12 hours to come down. Why didn't you just go back up? Because markets always consolidate before changing direction. Whenever you go down, you have to accumulate before going back up. Whenever you go up, you have to distribute before going back down. Happens on every time frame. Sometimes it's so quick it seems like nothing happened, but it actually did. That's a rule, that's a principle on all time frames in technical analysis. So what you're looking at here should be an accumulation. So for people wondering, well, when is it going to move? You can actually see this right here, a more advanced version of it in some altcoins. Meaning, don't be surprised if certain altcoins just start running and Bitcoin's still accumulating here. Our others dominance is telling us that don't be surprised if this accumulation pattern happens more quickly in some altcoins than it does in Bitcoin. That is actually to be expected. The other thing is you should be able to count this, right, as an initial break, initial counter, secondary break, secondary counter, pivot, pivot, boom. You should be able to count this either by looking at Wyckoff accumulation schematics or looking in terms of A/B basing theory, right? 2 degrees of A/B basing and a pivot that I talk about all the time on this channel. So that's the other thing. This is why it's not going immediately, and this is what it's doing. Basically, in other terms, you need to reaccumulate buyers after selling off. People have to be given a chance and interest to buy the asset up here once more, and then create an imbalance in demand, whereby there's not enough supply to make it go to the targets that we discussed. That's my analysis for today. Hope this was helpful, useful. Like, share, and subscribe if you got value. Consider my crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation service, where you can trade directly with me. You can choose up to 5 altcoins. I help you choose altcoins that are actually going to be bullish, because not all altcoins are going to be bullish in this crypto bull market. And then I help you identify high probability support and resistance levels where you can snowball profits, sell at high probability resistance, buy at high probability support. That you can sign up to at the link in the pinned comment below. Secondly, you can trade with me kind of by doing the single asset analysis service, where you're kind of just interested in my take on one asset or one market or one indicator. Just send payment through one of the 4 payment methods, and email me whatever you want me to look at, and within 24 hours I'll have that back to you. So that's single asset analysis. You can also follow up with a couple questions if you like. Last but not least, BTCC, the exchange partner for this channel, is offering 10% cashback for initial deposits, and you put at least 500 USDT or the equivalent on the exchange. You trade, and then within 7 days you should get your 10% back. It's happened in pretty much every case except for 1 or 2, and those cases I'm following up with my rep on. Excuses to those of you that have waited more than the 7 days quoted. That's actually a big point of like pride for BTCC, that they give out these rewards in a timely manner, because that is super annoying when exchanges do that or don't do that. So you can sign up for that offer at the pinned comment as well. Guys, that's it for me. Take care. See you later. Bye.
My prevalent time slot, I vocalize, too deep to localize, even when I'm right on the surface. You act surprised how I work this, but I can't lie. Many a good alibi. I'll catch you later.
Visions are vividly enhanced with emphasis and amethyst to develop morale advantages which help us manifest magnanimous. We body vitals like evangelists. So listen when you're dealing with people who be revealing premonitions with precision. At least that's what I'm aiming at for now. I speak the language of the world, meandering throughout the crowd. Used to feel safe to say anything, but now it's a risk. It's hard for me to let go when all I can do is reminisce. Gone like the wind, here's where I begin. Should I smile or should I grin what's happening?